Good morning, I'm here. I'm here with one ear out because there's a package arriving at some point today. Hello, welcome on in, Valkian24. Does that mean you were born in the year... Oh shit, that means you could be born in the year 2024. Very talented 2-year-old. Yeah, I'm old. Today's the day. Today is Thursday, the 13th of August 2026. Glad you like my videos. I like them too. I've got like something in an ice cube here. A flake of blue that I don't want to drink. What's that? What's that in my ice cube? I don't even know what that could be. I need the rest of the ice cube because it's really warm today, so I'm just gonna kind of try to melt it out. What an exciting start to the stream. I hope you're doing well, Valkia. Oh, we got it. Don't know if it's plastic or fabric. But I have enough plastic in my body? I mean, the fabric would still be plastic, right? No idea what that could be. So, Valkian. A little insight into what's going to happen today here. Aside from making all those super cool videos, which are clearly the best that YouTube has ever seen, I'm trying to make a little game. It's not little, it's quite big. I'm trying to make a video game. It's a video game about... See, every time someone new comes in, I have to craft my elevator pitch. All right, and this is really great training for like 2 years from now when the game will be in a state to present to people. I grew up on a little island called Aruba. How little? This little. See, that's the Earth, and that's how little Aruba is. You might have heard of it. It's rather popular with tourists. I want to make a first-person life/job sim in which you live and work on the island and get to explore certain parts of it. The world will be a kind of scaled-down recreation of the entire island. Obviously, not every street will be accessible because that would be impossible for me to build on my own. And this, you know, in spite of being a tiny island, the way video games work, it's still larger than most open world games by a considerable margin. So I have designed a Dreamcatcher. You just heard from Aruba as a product line for network switches. That's where they took the name from. They took it from me without paying me. And the idea is to recreate certain locations as places you can explore, learn the history, have a virtual world that you can kind of live in and exist in. It will be set in 2005, which is when I left the island at a younger age, let's say, and it'll be kind of a snapshot of the place as it was then, as I remember it. The development of it is in some ways me trying to reconcile my conflicting feelings about having grown up there. I'm sure we all have conflicting feelings about the places we grew up. There will be recreations of places that no longer exist, like a mini golf course. Places that I remember exploring as a child that I kind of want to recreate exploring. The main area that will be like, because it's like I'm thinking about it as a platform, right? I'm creating like the scaled down version of the island, but I'm one person. I'm thinking about it as a platform in which I build a basic game loop and then can expand outwards and include new locations as development continues. And the main place is this tourist natural monument called the Natural Bridge. As you can see here, it looks rather collapsed. It collapsed in 2005. And yet somehow still attracts tourists because monuments have a magical thing like that. Something like Second Life, more like something like, I don't know if you're familiar with My Summer Car, or Monbazou, or there's a few other of these kinds of games that recreate a real life place in some extent, and then make you kind of live there, and give you reasons to explore and do things there. You know, in those games, you're building a car. I'm not necessarily going to have that, but you will basically be working at the. You don't know these games, okay? What else could be? Imagine people role-playing in Grand Theft Auto in single player, or Red Dead Redemption. You have a big open world. There's a lot of detail. You know, maybe you want to role-play as someone who follows the law. People derive a lot of enjoyment out of that kind of experience. Won't be any guns. Won't be any combat. There won't be any enemies. I mean, there might be enemies in the social sense. But it's great that you don't know those games, because that forces me to try to explain what this game is without relating to those. But that's the idea. All I have... Look, we're very early in the stages. All I have is super extremely super early prototype walking around with some light interaction, because I have been dabbling around game development for all of my life, but I've never been able to take a project to like a level of complexity this big. And I have like an ass load of notes. I have so many notes. This is my Obsidian file. Hey, All Mind, good to see you. So many notes, old notes, active notes. I have, where's the map design? Okay, I need to like take this file somewhere and give it a better place. Not this one. All Mind, you know what I'm... Bitmap sketch? This might be it. I've been agonizing over this scaled down version of the island. It's scaled down by like... You're just running marathon, awesome. It's scaled down by like a third, but certain locations are 1-to-1 because their kind of size is important to the game. So I've kind of sketched out like a basic road network of areas that I would like to be explorable or visible from some sightseeing areas. So the basic loop of the minimum viable product, just to repeat it again, is you'll live somewhere here. This road is like 2.5 kilometers long. You'll work here, and then here you'll work inside this little snack bar, cafe, souvenir shop type location. You know, buses and rental cars will come in. Tourists will get out, walk around, enter your shop, you have to make sure it's stocked, all that kind of shit to make money. You take that money, you buy food, you buy gasoline for your car, maybe you get upgrades for your car, maybe you get stuff to decorate your house. Last stream, someone asked if it was cozy, and I immediately said no, it's not cozy. But there is something chill about it. You know, it's chill, it's comfortable. Comfortable might be a better word than cozy, because cozy immediately in my head I see a certain art style. I see cartoon characters, I see bright colors, I see, you know, Animal Crossing, Pokemon to some extent. That's just that visual style of cartoony, colorful. Stardew Valley, very much so in the pixel sense. You know, there's so many of those games, and I find that's not something I'm interested in, really, that vibe. But there's a slightly more mature, more grown up. Not that cozy is childish necessarily, but it is childlike. It is friendly. There's a different vibe I'm going for here. So the games I'm modeling it after, My Summer Car and Mon Bazou and those kinds of games, are very juvenile, very like explicitly and intentionally immature, because they're trying to kind of get this vibe of being like a young person, like still a late teenager, you know, 18, 19, maybe 20, living in a small town and farting and pissing and drinking and smoking weed. I don't care for any of that. That wasn't my childhood. That wasn't me as a teenager. And I kind of want to put the island in a good light without shying away from its idiosyncrasies. But I think, knowing that, the goal today, I've been doing a lot of talking and a lot of note-taking, which is fine. It's important. But I know from myself that I am, to some extent, procrastinating. So I have a very long to-do list. And I think it might be a good idea to kind of just start going down it. And the plan for today originally was, I thought I had a whole host of tutorials that very, very clearly and accurately had what I needed, and that turns out not to be the case. When I looked at all the tutorials I had saved on YouTube for like some of these things, it turned out to be a lot more random than I thought. Just shit I saved in my like watch later or whatever. That's like shader stuff that I'm not going to be touching yet for a while. So let's just look at the to-do list and take a look at what we have left to do. Okay. Okay, so the goal for August is to finalize all the major features of the character controller. And I've been sketching this out. We can close all this shit again. Graphically, visually, of what the character controller is supposed to be able to do, or at least what I don't have implemented yet. I'm building it off of a character controller that I just downloaded from the Godot Asset Store. What's it called now? It's just called Asset Store. But I was very, you know, not. It was pretty good. It's a good character controller. I think it was. What's it called? I want to give it credit. Quality Godot First Person Controller V2 by Colormatic Studios. But I both want to do very specific things that are very different from a usual kind of like, you know, this is a first person character controller, slap a gun onto it, you got a game. I have specific needs for how I want movement to feel and for the abilities and all that stuff. So I've been sketching it out with the help of chat, very kindly. And we've been kind of chopping away at the ideas and what I want, and we're kind of close to a full done framework, I think. Which means I have to do the actual difficult thing, which is coding it. But on the to-do list is basic reticle. So the at some point I had written down that I don't like the reticle that it has right now, but I'm not sure if that's true. But we're gonna take a look at it, and we're gonna see if there's something I need to change there. Hey, Blair fan. Someone sneezed outside. Then the second thing is the I have like FOV changes for when the character goes into run mode or zooms. And they're kind of clunky. Like, this is too fast, I feel. And this is, I don't know if this is right either. And right now I'm using a lerp, and I know what a lerp is in principle, but I don't know if I'm using it right. Maybe a custom crosshair setting? There doesn't need to be a crosshair. So right now it's just a dot, right? I think my problem was I thought the dot was a bitmap, which is not very scalable. If if 20 years from now, someone is playing this on a 32K monitor, I want the UI to still look good. In the post-nuclear wasteland or whatever. I need to understand it, I think. Like, I have this because I took an asset, and I'm not a coder by nature. It's something very foreign to me. Like, a lot of stuff I get very quickly. I'm a pretty clever guy. But a lot of times I need to look at the specifics of this, and I need to keep reminding myself of how it's all supposed to work. And, there's like best practice coding practices and all that shit, and I'm trying to keep some of that in mind, but I'm also like, a lot of these games that I take inspiration from are like complete messes on the code front, and I think I should be accepting of that being a thing too, even if it delays my development. Because I think if I let myself get held back, then that'll be more frustrating. I'm in the process of writing my own immutable OS config for my home lab. I'd love a home lab. I'd love to have a home lab to just like jack in and well, in my case, pretend I'm doing something productive. Okay, but that's just the FOV and the reticle. And then the other really big thing that I want to focus on is how to pick up items. So pick up small physics items, small rigid bodies, and have them in your hand, and be able to do the things I want you to be able to do with them. And while I have an idea in my head about how I want that to work, we might have to go back to the flowchart, and I'll have to figure out exactly what that looks like, because there's multiple ways of doing this. And ideally, I would like an item to be in your hand, but I don't know if that is practical, feasible. That would require work if I give you new items to pick up, because presumably there's going to be dozens, if not hundreds, of items potentially that you can pick up. Right, just physics objects that you can move. So we'll see about that, but that's the big thing. And then there's sitting. I need you to be able to sit. I need to figure out what that looks like. And then you have picking up items, dropping items, using items, placing items, and using items on fixtures. So I have this whole system in my head. I don't have a system in my head. I have a vision in my head. That's something I need to learn. The thing you have in your head is kind of worthless if it doesn't turn into a system. So that is something we need to figure out. I'm going to be looking at a lot of tutorials today, playing around a bit with code. And we'll see how far we get. It's also going to be extremely hot today. It's another 34-degree day, and tomorrow also. Hey, Blackwater. That's Winamp. It whips the llama's ass. So yeah, it's also a very hot day today, so I don't know about my productivity. We'll see how far we can get with that. Alright, let's look at the reticle. What I have now. If we go to the character scene. Yeah, we go into the character scene. I think the reticle is entirely in code. Because we have user interface, we have the debug panel, we have the interaction content. Now, so what I'm trying to get at here, for some reason I closed this. What I'm trying to get at here is I just want to make sure that I understand how this little dot in the middle works. That's all. And to make sure it's always centered, to make sure, you know, configurable stuff is future stuff, right? Maybe changing its size or color or whatever for the player, all that accessibility stuff, important, but not right now. But also, as you can see, I have a system set up right now where if you look at an interactable item, so here button, here normal seat, here door, right now this basic system, this basic interaction system that I've copied, just has a little text label. What I'll work on in the future, and right now this exists only in my head, is that there might be icons around the reticle that give you an indication as to what kind of interaction you can expect. So here a button would just be like a hand or something like that, right? But a seat would show a small icon of a chair or something. Because I don't like the text necessarily. The text could be useful if I'm picking up items, maybe. Maybe we'll keep the text for some stuff. But I think for specific kinds of interactions, I'll want little icons. But that's the system we're going to set up in the future. Right now, the character reticle. This default reticle, and which is a scene. And it's this scene, P1 reticle 0. And P1 reticle 0 is a what is it? Center container. Why do I need to assign a character? Character body 3D. What's that for? You don't know. We have a dot, and a dot is a polygon 2D. So it's not a bitmap. It's just a little dot. It's just a little square. Of the size? What's its size? -1 by 1. Okay, it's 1 by 1 by 1. If we go back to the code, we have export category reticle. Right, that's this. Export group nodes. Export var character body 3D. I don't know what that's for. It's not used anywhere. I can get rid of that. Settings, dot size is 1, color is white. So if we do dot size 5, and we make it hot pink, will that work? No. No, it does want the character body 3D. Where? Reticle. default reticle, change reticle, default reticle. Change reticle. Yeah, I don't know what that is. If reticle, reticle, Q, reticle, load, reticle, character self. Okay, so it adds the... right. So I do need that. And I can change the reticle. Okay. Good to know. Even though I don't want that. I liked it the way it is. Does 2 look good? Because I kind of... there's a part of me that liked it being big. We'll leave it at 2 for now. Settings, dot size, okay. If visible. Okay, if it's not visible, don't bother updating it. Why does it need to be updated? Sorry, why do I have so much reticle stuff here? Or just a dot? Add-ons, FPC, reticles. Oh, there's multiple reticles. That's just a dot. Right, okay. And this has animations and shit in it. Alright. I don't need that. I made my own at some point. I don't remember. That I just called P1 reticle, prototype 1 reticle 0. But that might not be necessary. Right? Export default reticle. I'll just make a note here. Bob note. Bob note. We won't have selectable different reticles, probably. So can just have this reference the main one directly. Reticle. Okay. The reticle should always have a control node as the root. Sure. I'm going to do a whole other thing with the reticle and icons and interaction context, so this will probably have to go. Interaction context might just have the reticle inside of it, huh? Could I do that? I'm just thinking out loud. I won't need... I won't need changeable reticles. But even if I do... I could do that from within here. Interaction context. I could just recreate this here. We have a dot, right? Copy. Paste as child. Interaction context. One reticle. Radical nodes. You don't need that either. Radical settings. Are you showing up anywhere? There you are. Right. If visible, don't bother updating it. That's fine by me. You are in process, and I don't have process here. Oh my god, this system isn't working out for me. You are in process. We don't have process here, so let's just copy that all over. Yeah, then we need to copy over update radical sentence. Radical.
Good night, Mister.
Radical settings. Yeah. And then in our player character, we can get rid of everything that has to do with radical. Hey Martijn, I am technically doing code, aren't I? I mean, just copy pasting shit, but that's more than what vibe coders do, right? Default radical, not declared in current scope. Hell yeah, it isn't. Radical. That's not necessary. Get rid of you. Hey Feather. Good morning. Don't need this. Radical. Let's see. Alright, well the radical isn't showing. So that's not good. This dot is not centered for some reason. I don't know why that would be. So dang early. Have I got a lot of work done on the game? Is that true? I had this thought. I need to give myself positive affirmation sometimes. I had this thought on Tuesday when I wasn't in the mood to code, but we did figure out some good interaction stuff. Is a little tiny, minuscule, microscopic amount of progress is still progress. And half of the reason I'm doing it the way I'm doing it like this is that I'm not beholden to anyone else, right? Can I get your like, what's your transform? Like you are centered for some reason. just because the interaction contexts are different. Context. Radical settings is fine. Layout. Nope, that ain't right. That ain't right. Oh, what's that? That's not what I want. Okay, so the label is centered. Just trying to remember how these Godot UI things work. Half of what I'm doing when I'm making this right now is just remembering and or learning how Godot works. There we go. Put it at 0. Let's try. No. Invalid access to property scale on a base object of type null instance. Where? Oh, I don't have the dot. At export var dot is. What are you? Polygon 2D. The thing is, I do a lot of my learning and my whatevering. I do it all very intuitively. Nope. Right, but you have dollar dot. I could just do dot. Since we have dot now, I can get rid of the dollar. Yeah, look at that. We have a reticle, and it moves when I move the. Why does it move? Interaction focus connect update memory set context. What if, sorry, what if we just do this? It shouldn't be in the HBox container. That's the problem. And then we don't need to do that. Then we can just get back to dollar bills. We don't need you. The alignment isn't as good. It does look like it's in the center though, right? It might be skewed a little bit. Not exactly in the center, is it? I need to understand how the user interface works. Position relative to the node's parent. So this is a no, this is not an interaction context. This is a center container. Godot center container.
So you find control nodes really confusing to get into, and no matter what you do, it feels like you just can't get them?
Yeah.
Well, I'm here to change that. Let's get started. Every control node has some basic transform properties such as position, rotation, size, and scale. The position is always visually the top left corner of the node. This blue box here is the game window's resolution. This can be changed in the project settings. So if I were to set the position of my panel to half my project's resolution, the top left corner of the square would be exactly at the center of the game screen. The size property, not to be confused with scale, defines how far the bottom right corner is in pixels, relative to the top left corner. This means that increasing the size of the node will only ever make a control grow towards the right or down. The scale can be thought of as a multiplier for the size property. The final size of the node will be the size multiplied with the scale of the node. For example, if the size of the node was 100 pixels on the X and the scale was 2 on the X, the resultant size would be 200 pixels. One important thing to note here is that the scale is dependent on the pivot offset property, which is the offset of the pivot point from the top left corner. This little plus icon shows where the pivot point of the selected node is. By default, since the pivot point is at the position of the node, increasing the scale will make the node grow similar to how increasing the size would. However, if I was to set the pivot offsets X to half the size as X, you'll see that increasing the X scale makes the panel grow in both directions. If I set it to half the size on both axes, it grows outwards from the center. Do note that the pivot offset does not affect the size property in any way. The rotation property is fairly straightforward. Only thing to pay attention to is the fact that it also respects the pivot offset just like scale. The order of nodes in the tree is important. Nodes that are lower in the tree are stacked on top visually. So when I move this panel below the label, the panel renders on top of the label.
Anchors. That's what I
Anchors
want to know.
are used to design layouts that work properly with any aspect ratio. These green pegs here are the anchors of a control. The anchors are the sides of the rectangle that these pegs would make. Left, right, top, and bottom. You can see these in the inspector if you set the layout mode to anchors and the anchor preset to custom. Each anchor is a float within the range of 0 to 1. You can think of it as a percentage. A value.
So, what if... Okay, interaction context is a center container. And the center container is... a container that keeps child controls in its center. Center container is a container that keeps all of its child controls in its center at their minimum size. Top left, using top left, using containers. Online tutorials. Anchors. Let's just continue watching the video then.
Value of 0 would be 0%, 0.5 would be 50%, and 1 would be 100%. If you also think of your Windows resolution in the scale of 0 to 1, starting from the top left corner, understanding anchors is fairly simple. Let's draw a line right at the center of the window on the x-axis. This would be at 50% of the whole range, or 0.5. Now if I set my right anchor to a value of 0.5, you'll notice that the green pegs on the right show up at the center right where I drew that line. Now if I change the target resolution in the project settings and reload my project, you'll see that the same value of 0.5 for the right anchor has shifted to the halfway point of the new resolution. So essentially, the number of pixels in our window resolution no longer matters. We simply start to think in terms of the percentage of screen space away from the edge of the window.
Yeah, that's what I want.
All this theory is cool and all, but who asked? You did. Imagine a situation where you wanted to place this health bar right at the middle of the screen. You send the game off to a friend and it looks fine on their end. Nice. But then you send it to another friend that plays at a slightly longer resolution and yeah, that's no longer centered. Another example, you have some neat UI showing the player some really important information about your game. The solution to both of these situations? Anchors. Here, if we set our anchor to be at the horizontal center, our health bar is positioned at the center of the screen no matter how wide the resolution is. However, this still breaks if the vertical resolution of our game is changed. To fix this, we'd have to set the anchor to be at the bottom middle of our screen. This will make sure that the element is anchored to the bottom.
What is an anchor? This has anchors? Layout. This node is a child of a regular control. That's this user interface. Anchors preset, full rect. Use anchors and a rectangle for positioning. Yeah. Anchor preset, full rect. Each box container is a horizontal box container. Okay. Container that arranges its child's controls horizontally. The weather is nice. Saw total solar eclipse yesterday. Other than that, everything is fine. Other than an amazing astrological event, everything's cool. A variant of box container that can only arrange a child. I don't know why I need this. I don't need this to be an HBox container. I'll be perfectly honest. Let's see if this still works. Yeah, although the reticle is gone now. Why is the reticle gone? Because I messed with I messed with it. Label. So why is the center container not centering the actual thing? Is it because it's a node 2D? I'm making an unturned clone. Unturned. No. Although it will be an open world, not quite survival, but job/life sim. Anyway, let's continue. Let's continue here.
Vertically and the center horizontally. And here we can anchor it to the right center of our screen.
Anchor latest stable. Anchors are an efficient way to handle aspect ratios for basic multiple resolutions. GUIs. For more complex user interfaces, they can become difficult to use. Yeah. For that, containers are more useful. Containers provide a huge amount of layout power. When a container-derived node is used, all children control nodes give up their own positioning ability. This means the container will contain their positioning, and any attempt to manually alter these nodes will either be ignored or invalidated the next time their parent is resized. So could that be it, that I need a control node? Control. The basic control node that it needs to be a child of, the dot. And you need to go, you won't be here, you will be, what would you look like? Dollar, control dot, like that. Not yet. You need to be still centered in that control node, right? That's what I had in the original thing. In the player controller. Control node. The reticle should always have a control node as the root. No, that doesn't give me what I need. Adding a node to a container. The way the container treats each child depends mainly on their containers. What other control nodes do I have? Aspect container. These are containers. A label. Let me just get every single control node I can. Base button, text edit, color rect. I think we just need to replace it with a color rect, to be honest. That should do the trick. Delete the control. Color rect. Layout. Where would I know your? Where would I get your size? Transform. A control that displays a solid color rectangle. Displays a rectangle filled with a solid color. If you need to display the border alone, raising a panel instead. Update reticle settings not found. You're unnecessary. You're unnecessary. Where do we get this color rect? Color rect. Inherits from control. So layout. This node is a child of a container. Use container properties for positioning. I need music. Cannot think without music. You know how it goes. So much work just to replace something small. Go color rect size.
How to use color rect node in Godot. It's a very simple node that lets us create a box with a specific color. It's often used to create simple backgrounds, and due to its simplicity, sometimes beginner developers use it to create their whole game. But that is not the best approach. It would be better with static bodies, for example. If you would like to create a floor for your character in a platformer game, it would be better to create tile maps with a collisions or maybe static bodies.
Yeah.
But let's get back to the color rect.
Thank
we
you.
can delete this one and we'll create a new one together. Click here on the plus icon, type color rect. we've got a small white box that we can move around. By clicking one of the red dot, you can scale it however you like. And in the inspector we've got very important thing, that is the color. So click on it and change it. And to use it as a background, simply drag it here and stretch it all over the current scope. Run the project. And
What am I missing? Why is my mouse not? Why would my mouse not work? That's rather odd, isn't it? You ever feel like you've ruined everything? You don't know why? Radical. This is not like improving anything for me, so I'm just gonna get rid of all of it, and we're just gonna go back to where I was before. Default reticle is you. And the label stuff I've messed up somehow. Yeah, because the interaction context should be lowered a little bit. All of this needs to be modify to some extent at some point in the future. Yeah. All right. Now we're back to 0. I think I can change the reticle to size 1 though. For that. Okay, so get rid of the reticle shit. And just add this to my notes. Reticle. Trying to change it has led to nothing but heartache, but probably need to completely redo the UI system once I build that out anyway. So what else? It works the way it should right now. So that's technically crossed off of our to-do list, but not in a way that I'm very proud of. What can you do? Okay. Next, FOV change. So let's actually learn for once in our lives how lerping works in Godot. Wait, Godot FOV change running? Not to change FOV while sprinting.
Welcome back to the 12th episode in creating a third-person controller. If this is your first time seeing this, check the description for the entire playlist if you want to follow from the beginning. Today we are going to be linking the camera FOV action that we made a few lessons ago to the sprint state that we made last week. And we're going to be doing it with signals. Before we dive in, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Want instant access to the full course?
All right, let's first let's take a look at how we do it right now. We have a normal FOV var. We have an update camera FOV, which runs when? That runs in physics process. Should this run in physics process? If our state is running, see, it's if our state is running, not if we just entered the state. So that's one thing. Or update camera FOV should just look at what our speed is. No. If our state is running, right? Because what if we're rolling downhill? What if we're in a car? Then we don't necessarily want the FOV to change based on speed. Or do we? Here's the thing we need to talk about. What is the purpose of changing the FOV while running? The purpose of changing the FOV while running is just to give an indication that you're running. It's just to help you give a sense of speed. Very famously in Burnout 1 or 2, when you hit the boost, you hit the boost in that racing game, the FOV changes, the camera starts shaking, there's motion blur, but apparently the velocity of your car doesn't actually change. I think that was in one of the early Burnouts. Just kind of horseshit, because you still want, if you're hitting the boost, you want a boost. So running in my game, what is the purpose of running in my game? You need to get really down to basics. Running in the game exists because the default walking speed is quite slow. I'm using a slow walking speed to create a sense of scale and distance, and that trying to walk to a place will represent a sacrifice of time, and therefore you are more likely to consider when you're going somewhere. You are more likely to try to use the car to go somewhere that's far. You there will be a heat mechanic in the game, just that looks like this. There'll be a heat mechanic in the game, so being out in the heat is maybe not dangerous, but inconvenient. It won't lead to good things. These are all ways in which I'm communicating to the player. If you're going to travel, you need to travel with consideration. You need to pack water or drinks or food or fuel for your car, that kind of stuff. You can't just zoom around the place like you're Doom Guy. And that to me helps increase the relationship with the world, because you're kind of taking it slowly in there. You can't run. So there will be running, but the running will come at a cost of energy. And you won't be able to run for a very long time. And there's a reason why I'm not calling it sprinting. Because usually in first-person games, even in some of these life simulatory type things, there is no walking. There's just running and sprinting. And in most action games, obviously, there is just running and sprinting. And sprinting is a quick boost. So running, see, there I go already. Running in the game is something that exists kind of as an emergency, potentially. Emergency is maybe too strong a word. But a situation where you're like, okay, I'm in a place where I can recover this energy potentially, or I have excess energy. I have the option to get where I need to go, which is in walking distance, a little faster. So I'm not running isn't going to be a default state. You're not going to be holding shift all the time, or you're not going to be in some games. You know, especially in first person shooters, where that maybe have some kind of stealth component or sound component. I'm thinking of like Counter-Strike. Running is the default, and then you can press a button to walk in order to lower your footstep sound. That won't be the case here. So there's running, and it'll drain a lot of. So if the state is running, alert the camera. Else, I think what I need to do is this function might not be necessary in But right now what I'm doing is I'm checking every physics frame. I'm checking, are we in the running state? If we are, lerp the camera to normal FOV minus 10. Which I also don't know if it's the right thing to do. Do I increase the FOV or lower the FOV? I think when you're running, you're kind of going like this, right? So you lower the FOV. I think that makes sense. Or maybe you go wider. I don't know. I'll experiment with it. But we enter the running state. We enter the running state. I need to play around with this a little bit. I have what is the debug key? Don't remember what the debug menu key is. F7. I can't crouch while running. I can't run while crouching. For some reason, I can't zoom while running. I don't like that either. Zooming is also something slow and considerate that you use to read stuff. So also, apparently, no, that's target speed. Takes us like a second to get to. I think, where do I set the velocity of the player? That's a good question. Target speed. Update debug menu. Yeah. Target speed. Speed. Current speed. Head bob animation. Debug menu. Debug menu. Speed. Base speed, run speed, crouch speed. Okay, if is on floor, velocity. Handle movement. I'm gonna think about this while taking a quick bathroom break. All right. So I have two entirely unrelated situations in which the FOV can change. The first is if you hit the zoom button, and you should be able to hit the zoom button whenever you're not running. Right? Let me just write this down in my grand Aruba Untitled Adventure notebook. I just need to visualize this for myself. You have sorry, what day is today? Today's 13th, 08, 26. FOV change situations. 1, when not sprinting. If hit zoom button. Alright. 2, while sprinting. Tied to velocity. So for that, actually, what we can do is update camera FOV. We can still use that. In if, what do we call this? State. If state is running. If state is... I do not know how my code works. This is true. If state is running, update camera FOV. Okay. And then in update camera FOV, which I should have just clicked on to get there. This can go. This can go. It's already if state is running. Just throw a pass in there so it doesn't whine. Basically, camera.fov is normal FOV minus 10. We start with that. But we need some way. Okay, so right now what we have is the running FOV is 6. Sorry, no, the running speed is 6 and the base speed is 3. If we want to subtract, we want to take this speed, add normal speed, the FOV, we're gonna have to do some math here. This is a typical kind of tricky thing that I don't understand, but it should be possible if we just work this out. The normal FOV is so at the normal speed, which is the speed we start at when we're sprinting. At the speed we start at when we enter the sprint state, which is 3 meters per second or something, or 3 kilometers per hour. the FOV is normal FOV minus what ends up being 0. And at full speed, at 6, at the speed of 6, at the velocity of 6, the FOV is normal FOV minus 10. Let's look at the video.
Join as a channel member or support me as a Patreon to unlock every episode right away. Prefer a one-time purchase? Grab the complete course on Udemy. You'll get lifetime access plus all future updates. Links are below. Now let's jump in. Let's have a look at setting up the FOV change in the camera to be linked to the sprint. Now it's actually pretty straightforward. We're going to do it with a signal, and so we'll come into the sprint script, and I'll type signal, and it'll just be called sprint started. And
that's right, ironic, moronic.
And it'll be called.
But only when I'm in the sprint state. About the sense of speed in the car, how did NFS Most Wanted do it again? I don't recall. But I'm not gonna be doing that anyway. I want a sense of I want kind of the opposite of what racing games do. Racing games do this thing where everything feels fast. And I want slow speed to still feel fast. But I get the sense that's going to be more a thing related to geometric detail in the world than anything else. And how I make the player feel in general. So the same thing here with the walking, where the walking is going to be relatively slow. You're never going to have a fast car in this game. You know, like the max speed of your first car, not upgraded. If you even get another car or another vehicle, will be 50, maybe 60 kilometers an hour, and it'll take a while to get there, and you won't be able to get there unless you're on a paved road. It's all relative, you know.
Sprint ended. Okay, so those are the two signals. They'll be over here on the right-hand side. But first, let's just work on the emission before we link them up. So obviously sprint started, pretty straightforward. We want to put that in the enter function. So we can go sprint started.
I want speed in the car almost to feel like a risk. You know, that's that thing that my summer car does really well, because your car is hand built. You take a lot of pride in it, but also every single one of those pieces can fly off, and your car can dent easily, and if you crash, the car becomes inoperable, and also it becomes a bitch to have to rebuild again. Now, I'm not going to have that in the game, but yeah, you're afraid you're going to crash. I want that feeling. If you crash, there's going to be big consequences. Your car's going to have to be in the shop for a week or something like that. How am I going to go to work? You know, those kinds of feelings.
Dot emit, and that's all we have to do there. So we'll just emit that off to the camera to say, hey, we're in the sprint. Let's change the FOV. Now, for the ended, we do have that exit function, right? That we made in the state class. I'll just put pass here, so you can see that this exists, right? It goes all the way back to state. We have a virtual function here that we can use. That would be called when you exit a state. However, right now we are going from sprint into sprint jump. And if we were going into sprint jump, we wouldn't actually want to call the sprint ended signal. We wouldn't want to emit the sprint ended signal because, well, we haven't finished sprinting yet. And I think it would be disorientating to change the FOV before you hit the ground. So instead, we can just emit it every time that we know that.
Godot FOV velocity. Sorry, I think this person is explaining things very well. It's just not the way I have my character controller set up. It's not going to be of much use for me. FOV slider, soft intro velocity and acceleration.
Hello, I'm going to talk about a problem I've seen in just about every FPS tutorial I've watched in the past decade, either for Godot or Unity. Once you see it, you won't be able to unsee it, so I apologize for that. If you're a creator of Godot FPS tutorials, please make sure to include this easy fix so your FPS controller doesn't have this problem. That said, let's get into the problem. Most FPS tutorials give you some good basic code for creating an FPS controller. Usually it's some form of left-right mouse movement rotating the player on the y-axis, and then up-down movement pitching the camera up and down, and then WASD moving the player forward, back, and strafing left and right. However, they almost always miss one key thing, and it's actually easy to miss, so it's understandable why this happens. What's missing is that the player is moving at 60 physics ticks per second, but the camera is often updating at a different rate, usually faster than 60 frames per second.
Right,
most of the time you don't really notice them not being in sync, but when moving sideways and rotating your view at the same time, often
High FOV sucks, head bobbing, adding juice. This is for 2D, yeah.
Hi everyone, I'm Skybastion and this is third part of the FPS tutorial series, and in this video we are going to add a few effects to our player so that the game looks much more lively. So in the previous part we had implemented weapon so our player can shoot anywhere in the map, so that's great.
I think you know I'm gonna give it like 10 more minutes to try and see if I can mentally figure it out. But like I can at least set a basic thing here where I can have this function just set the FOV, just change the FOV instantly, and then I can build on that much later.
Now I would like to add a bunch of effects. So the first one that we are going to implement is showing a visual feedback when we are sprinting, so it looks a little bit nicer. And the second effect that
Yeah, I don't
we are
know.
going to
That's the other thing. I don't know how LURP properly works, so I'm gonna look that up as well. I work very intuitively, and I forget a lot about how things are supposed to work. And then I just copy paste code in until it works the way I think it should work. And then when I change it, it's like I don't remember how this actually works. And now I'm in trouble.
implement
Story of my
is
life.
a weapon swing, where as I move, the weapon is going to rotate a little bit. And the third and final effect is going to be a simple breathing animation. So that's it.
But a lot
for
of what I'm
this
doing,
video.
a lot of what I'm doing here, and the reason why I'm streaming this also, is the streaming forces me to think out loud, and kind of like show what's working, what's not working, and gives me a little bit of accountability. You know.
Video. Let's begin. So
I want to immerse myself in all of this. I'm having to force myself to do this, otherwise I'll just keep delaying the project, and that's not what I want to do with my life.
here I will first of all start with adding effect for sprinting. So I will go to the player scene, and inside of player we are concerned with our movement script. So here we are inside player movement .gd. So first of all, we need to know when the value of is sprinting is changed. So for that, I can define a signal for this, and this can be is sprinting changed, and I can call this signal whenever the value of is sprinting is changed. So for that, I can add a setter method. So inside of it, first let's check if our is sprinting's new value is same as the old value, and if that's the case, we simply return out, we don't do anything. But if the new value is different, so if previously it was false and the new parent value is true, then we simply go ahead and set is sprinting to that new value. But also we emit this signal that we have defined, and we pass down the value is sprinting. So any listener method that listens to this event, this signal, can get the is sprinting value. Okay. So yeah, that is all for our play movement script. So we want to show that sprint effect by changing the field of view of our camera. So if I go to the camera preview, and over here if I change the field of view, you can see that for larger values we can see more area. So yeah, I'm going to, for this sprint effect, I will set a value of 90 when we are sprinting, and we are going to animate it with tween. So let's do that. So for this, we are going to go to our player cam.
Using a tween. Okay. That's not what we will be doing. Godot lerp.
LERP, short for linear interpolation, is a simple, commonly used formula in game development, but is extremely powerful in its simplicity. This is the formula: x equals a plus t multiplied by the difference between b and a. If we assume that a and b are locations, then we can use this simple equation to move something from point A to point B over time. Since we know the object will be at point A at time 0, then at point B at time 1. Knowing the locations of point A and point B, we can use any value for t in between 0 and 1 to find where the object will be between point A and point B at that time. But A and B don't have to be locations. They can be anything, like scale,
Or camera FOV.
color,
Yeah.
transparency, or anything we want. So you can see how this simple formula can be used to linearly interpolate almost anything
Anyone
between
lerped
two.
FOV? FOV slider. FOV slider. Nope, not movement.
Hello everyone, in this tutorial I'll be showing how to use the interpolation feature in Godot, and also how to make a companion follow the player. First off, I will just make a new sprite. So I'm going to copy the player sprite, I'm going to call it companion. I'm going to move it a little bit away from the player. Going to make a new script. First off, we need to reference the player node. So I'm going to do an onReady variable player gets the player, and since it's in the same parent, we need to reference up 1. And now that we have that, we can delete the function already. And all we need to do is set the position to lerp position, our position, and then the player's position. This will obviously interpolate us to the player's position. Now we need a speed variable, so we need to multiply by delta, but I can add a variable speed, which I'll set to, let's say 3.
How did I have it last time? Camera FOV is lerp. Camera FOV. That's current camera FOV to normal FOV. Minus 10.
And we can now do speed times delta. If we press play, we can see.
Maybe I should have added some delta in there. Where are you? Here. Hold on. Hold on. Hold the phone. I mean, that still won't be like dynamic according to the actual velocity, but might not need to be.
we press play, we could see that the
times delta. Well, that's not working. I would like to know if state is running. Update camera FOV. Wait. Oh my god. Why was that working and this not? I said no music. Why was it working before and is it not working now? I really am writing code. Lerp F. Doing lerp. Well, why was it working before? Nope. Hold on. We're just gonna go. I'm just gonna go. Let's just start back to basics. Camera dot FOV is camera dot FOV minus 10. All right, we'll just do that real quick. Sorry, if state is running. Else camera dot FOV is normal. So that works. All right. Going in and it's coming out. Very suddenly, very obviously, very correctly. And I can't run in any other situation. I mean, I can go into the running state while jumping. Sorry, is that going into the running state? Yeah. So that is something I want to take a note of. Shouldn't be able to go into running state while not on ground. That's for future me.
In this video, I'll show you how to create a FOV slider in Godot. This feature allows players to adjust the camera's field of view, which is essential for those prone to motion sickness. Additionally, a higher FOV makes first-person games.
Here is a quick tutorial on...
So 4 years ago.
Linear interpolation, or LERP, is pretty simple. If you've got two numbers, doesn't matter what they are, and you want to get the number halfway between them, then that's a times a half plus b times a half. If you only wanted, say, 1/4 of the way between a and b, that's a times 3/4 plus b times 1/4. And if you wanted, say, the opposite, say 3/4 of the way between a and b, then that's a times 1/4 plus b times 3/4. This generalizes to an easy formula. For a value of t between 0 and 1, you can calculate a percentage between them as b times t plus a times 1 minus t, often expressed as a plus b minus a times t. This is all pretty simple so far, but what's crazy useful is that last parameter t, and let's dive into why exactly. This is a graph of t from 0 to 1. We'll refer to it as f at t or function of t, meaning that we have a function that takes t as a parameter and returns some sort of floating point value. In this case, our function is just returning t. What goes in comes back out. Simple as that. We've also got this little ball, so as t goes from 0 to 1, we interpolate the ball's position between left and right using f at t as the parameter de lerp. All good so far? Now, what happens if we take that function, and instead of just returning t, we mess around with it a bit? We'll keep the start and end values the same for now. That is to say, when t equals 0, the function returns 0, and when t equals 1, the function returns 1. But now we'll return t squared, or t times t. Well, the graph would change. Now you've got this second curved line drawing over the top, and you've got a second ball moving left.
So, ever wanted to give your Godot objects smooth animations with highly customizable easings, and then you found out that built-ins like LERP were lacking a bit? Well, then you'll want to learn about two other cool and lesser-known Godot built-ins, Smooth Step and Ease. Now, just before we dive in, did you know that thanks to all of your amazing support, I just released an idle incremental game about stars and constellations called Lightem? It's available on Steam for Windows, Mac and Linux for less than $5, and it's basically designed to be a chill and relaxed experience to learn more about the 80+ real constellations, or just invent your own and create a unique night sky. So, let's say I've got a basic 3D scene, like this one. My goal here will be to have some cars and trucks that move between the start and finish line with different kind of scripted movements. For now, I have just one truck, and this will be our baseline. So we'll have it move at a constant speed from here to there using LERP. Also, to play with our object's positions more precisely, I've decided to add a basic UI with a horizontal slider that goes between 0 and 1, and that will update the position of my cars whenever I drag its handle and update its value. The move logic will be handled by the script on our root node over there, that for now just looks like this. As you can see, the idea is that first we define the move range for vehicles. This is important because the built-ins we'll discover today work with normalized ranges, meaning from 0 to 1, but we want to map the movement to the entire start to finish range in our game scene, so we have to know what our bounds are. Then the move vehicles function is the callback for our horizontal slider's value changed signal. This is where we'll recompute the position of each car or truck according to its own logic, and for now that's just a basic lerped truck position. So for this truck, all we have to do is update the Z component of its global 3D position with the built-in lerp function by passing it the constant bounds of our move range and the direct value of the horizontal slider as a ratio. If we run the scene, this gives us a simple linear movement controlled by our slider that we can now compare all our other movements to. But of course, yeah, this is just a baseline because it feels really stiff and weird in a game, especially if we use an animation or a tween to play this movement automatically instead of manually with our slider. This sudden start and stop looks mechanical, and it really downs the juiciness of our game. So let's try a little improvement and add a second car on a road. It will still move between these 2 points, but this time its movement will use the smooth step function. Basically, we'll update our move vehicles callback function to also modify the Z position of this SUV object as follows. So we're still going between our constant Z limits, but this time, rather than passing our lerp function or normalized horizontal slider value directly, we're wrapping it in the smooth step function. What this will do is transform our linear movement into a smoother one with an ease in and ease out. If we retry our demo and update our slider, you see that the two vehicles
camera.fov is lerp from current FOV to normal FOV. Linear interpolates between two values defined in weight. Weight should be between 0.0 and 1. However, values outside this range are allowed to be used to perform extrapolation. Both from and to must be the same type. See also inverse lerp, which performs the reverse of this operation. Perform ease to combined with ease or smooth step. Also remap to map a continuous series of values to another. Well, we'll have to figure that out another time. Oh no, of course it doesn't work. It needs to be minus 20. Yeah. And it's instant because it's like weight of 1, right? Okay, so this isn't too bad. At 0.1. It's a little quick. But that's because I'm doing minus 20 now. But should I do plus 20? What is better? Bigger FOV or a smaller FOV? Ugh. Oh, that sucks. That's horrible. Bigger feels faster? Is that true? It looked horrible. Well, let's do plus 10. Because I look like I'm going backwards, you know? I think that works for a third-person view. I don't think that works for a first-person view. I think that works if you have your car in front of you and everything pulls back because it's like the camera is pulling back from the car, right? But on a first-person view, it doesn't look right to me. I think when you're going first person, you're kind of like enclosing. You're getting tunnel vision. If you're in a car, first person, then maybe it's bigger, it's faster, because then also it's like the G-forces are pushing you into the car. Do -15 for now. And then we can just lerp this also. Camera to normal. At the same way. Do we want to have delta in there? No, we don't. So the only thing I've changed is that I went from 0.3 to 0.1. And you know what? It's fine. Today, seemingly, has been a lot about learning that the way things were was fine. So be it. All I need to do, of what I still want to do is, when you enter that, you can't enter the running state while in the air. And I think there's a change state. Crouch enabled, if run enabled. If input is action, press controls run end state is a crouching, and is on floor. How do we do that again? On floor. Floor. Is on floor function. See, that's one problem. And that's why I still want to tie it to velocity. Because now, okay, now I can't enter running while in the air. That's fine. But now when I jump while sprinting, the FOV returns to normal. Which might be okay. It kind of might be okay. It kind of gives this effect of landing, you know? I have a landing animation when I jump, right? I have a little bit of a wobble. It kind of feels alright to me. It's not like you're going to be parkouring anyway. I like this. So that's fine. Okay. So that works. But can I not just... why does this need to be in a separate function? Where are we? So you can go. Now we just need to find a place to have zoom work. It's ready. Update camera. Okay, handle input. No, that's handle state, sorry. Input handling. Handle jumping. Handle movement. Handle head rotation. Extra non-movement controls. Yeah. If event is action press zoom. Do I have zoom? Scratch my toe. Is zoom in the character control? Yeah, it is. Okay, so the camera FOV stuff ended up still working. Camera FOV. Oh, sorry. If actions press zoom and is on floor and state is not is running. Camera FOV is lerp. Camera.FOV normal FOV divided by 2.5. That's a no. Oh, event action pressed. Oops. Whoopsie. Still no. Up one. If event is action pressed, zoom, and is on floor, and state is not running. Hmm. Where is interact? Interact cast after interact. Funk zoom. Camera.fov. Is lerp camera FOV to normal. How do I normal FOV divided by 0.1 wait. Should not be action pressed. Should be just pressed. Because it's only when it's holding it, right? Well, it's action pressed. For not true if the given action matches this event and is being pressed and is not an echo event for input event key unless allow echo is true. Relevant for events of input mouse motion and screen drag. If the matches false, it ignores additional input modifiers for input event key and input event mouse button. With the keyboard ghosting, something. Input event is action pressed, controls zoom, and is on floor. and state is not running. Oh, okay. I can't do it while running. I can't do it while in the air. I can do it while crouched. Okay. No. Could maybe have running FOV and zoom FOV be variables so I can control them better. That's done. Whoa! Whoa! Actually, having something done, even if it was half of it staying the same, it is now working the way I want it to work for the most part. Also, would love still if running FOV were tied to speed, or would I? Okay, now shouldn't be able to go into running state while not on ground. Also done. Also done. I need to set up these lists so that I can check them, so that I have the satisfying moment of seeing a bunch of checked items on it. Will be useful for when I'm actually sculpting the terrain, that there's elevation lines. Can I get back on? My jump height is very short. That's something I will tweak in the future. But again, jumping is something that, you know, it's not a platformer. There is an element of the game, potentially in the future, where I'd like you to be able to climb rocks. Not like rock climbing, like in depth, but just have a little bit more, locomotion ability. But we're very, very far from that. And it's not entirely impossible that, like, the whole entirety of the character controller will have to be rewritten multiple times. Okay, so that is that. Now the next big thing that I'd like to do soon, and we only have about an hour of stream left, is items. And I think we're just gonna be watching pick up items 3D. Picking up items in under 10 lines of code.
Hi, welcome to this tutorial on how to create a pickup object interaction in Godot under 10 lines of code. First, I will create a simple scene on which I will put a mesh and lighting. Now I will create a character body 3D, which I will name player, and add a collision shape, mesh, in node 3D, which I will name head. Under the head, I will place a camera and a node 3D, which I will name hand. Here I just found out that it is necessary to place the hand more in front of the raycast like here in the video. Now I will place a raycast under the camera and set its value to 0 and -4. Now I will create a script for the player node, which I will leave as it is automatically created. I will only change the movement to W, S, A, and D. Now when I start the scene, I can move around it. Next, I will place a script under the head node, and here I will just paste a pre-created code for rotating the camera, which I will put in the comments under this video. Now I can also move the camera when I start the scene. Now I will put a rigid body 3D in the scene, give it a collision shape and mesh, and create a group for it that I will call pickable. I can do the same with another rigid body. Now I will add a variable to the head script and call it raycast, under which I will drag and drop the raycast from our scene. The same with another variable that I will call hand. Now under the process delta function, I will define the variable which I will call object and add 3 conditions. If the raycast is colliding, if the object is in the group pickable, and if the interaction button is pressed, which I set to the left mouse button. Under the last condition, I will write object global position equals hand global position, and the same with rotation. Now when I start the scene and click on the object, our player will start moving because the object is clipping in to the player's collision shape. So I'll add object.collision layer equals 2 to the script and add raycast to layer 2. Now when I start the scene and click on the object is at the position of our hand. But when I release the left mouse button, the object immediately falls. So now I can add object.linear velocity equals vector 3, 0.1, comma 3, comma 0.1 to the script. Now when I start the scene and pick up and drop the object, it is thrown up and does not fall instantly. And this was the whole tutorial on how to create a pickup interaction in Godot. If you have a better...
There's something there, but I'm just trying to... So what I'm doing now is I have a specific idea in my head for how picking up items should work, or ideally how I would like them to work. Yet, this is a little complex for me. So I think what I'm doing now is I'm just watching some tutorials to see how other people have implemented this, and then I'll try to Frankenstein something together. Because I have an idea in my head. I want there to be like a usable hand. There will probably be a visible body at some point. At some point in the game, in the far, far future, there will be a visible first-person body. So you'll look down and you'll see your body, and you'll see your hands. And when you're driving, stuff will be make sense too. So when you shift, the hand shifts, and the hands are in the steering wheel. Not every single interaction will have like detailed first-person hands and fingers and arms. But there needs to be something there. For my weird inventory system, I need an arm that your objects are under. So this means for every item that you pick up, it needs to fit in the hand. But also, what you notice a lot with certain games where you pick up items, sometimes they still have a little bit of physics to them. And I think the way I need objects to work for me is like here's my question that I don't know yet, the answer to yet, is say you have an object on the floor in front of you and you click on it to pick it up. Does the object just move to the location of your hand, and then the hand kind of conforms to the shape of the object, so it looks like you're holding it? And and then it's technically, according to the game, the same object that just kind of moved. It either teleported to your hand, or it lerps, it animates, it tweens, whatever, from the locations it's at to whoop, it goes into your hand. Or when you click on an item that can be picked up, does it destroy itself? And does a new version of that now exist in your hand? Because that, right, it won't have physics anymore. It won't have collision at all necessarily, because it now exists in your hand. And in your hand it'll have other features, like if it's a bottle of water, you can take a sip. So it has, like, individual items may have a usable state. Because I also have these pocket items, right? I have your phone, your watch, your wallet, and your MP3 player. And at least the MP3 player and the phone need to be charged. And so for that, there are designated places where you can charge them. Probably just your nightstand. That's probably the only place where you have a charger cable, and you can put it on the charger cable, and now it's out of your inventory. It's no longer accessible to you, but it exists there static as a location. It's not a physics object. So that is then basically all I do is I disable your ability to access that item, your phone. If you hit the phone button, the phone no longer pops up. Your hand will do like a little like, and then if you click on the static phone that's now sitting on your nightstand, that disappears, and you have the ability to again use your phone, right? So that's pretty simple to me. That is, I'm disabling something that is always on you, and I'm just creating a little graphic there, and the charge state of your phone is being managed by the general game manager. But if for an item on the ground, does it make more sense for me to destroy that item from the world and instantiate a new held item in your hand that has the properties of a held item? And then but here's the other thing, you can drop an item. You're holding an item in your hand, you can drop it, or you can place it. Drop it it means it immediately leaves your hand. So that means at that point I have to destroy the handheld version of your item, immediately instantiate in its place a world version of the item, and then just let it fall into the world. It has physics and whatever. And if I have a placing mechanic, then there is a virtual version. You're holding the item in your hand, and at the same time there's a virtual version of the item that floats in front of you, maybe conforms to collision, but has no physics otherwise. And then if you let go wherever it is, then basically, okay. Okay, we need to work this out. Drop item, dropping and placing. I feel like we're getting somewhere here. I'm just gonna take what am I gonna do? Create a group, dropping and placing. And card. Card. placing an item creates holographic duplicate the middle of the reticle with no physics of maybe world position and potentially rotatable. Once ready to place, replace it with the place destroy once ready to place, do exact same as drop command, except item drops from the placed hologram instead of hand. Come on. I'm just gonna go on the BR back screen just a quick second because I need to breathe because like stuff is happening. We're making decent progress on the to-do list today. Let's talk about dropping and placing. So you hold an item in your hand. I think this already also implies this already also implies that we're gonna use the destroy the world item and instantiate a held item mode of working. I need to look up some more. I need to watch some more tutorials. I need to watch what other people are doing. Like, okay, we're again, we already have a an interaction system, right? Handle state, interact cast. There's a space state. We have the screen center. We have the origin of the ray. We have the ray. Interact cast result image signal interacted. So we have, where's the environment? We have a hand interaction component that can be renamed. Hello, thanks for the follow. We have interaction component. The context is interactable. It's the default context. We have a switch component. All on a node understand. Click parent interact call. Do switch. What is the label 3D? That's the context. Context is button. Label 3D is light. The label. Oh, the label is just in world. It doesn't matter. Button to hand interaction component. We can throw that on the to-do list. Just actually put that number 1. Components, interaction components are still called hand interaction. Probably a good idea to go over everything and remove any reference to Where is interact? If interact cast result and interact cast result has user signal interacted. Emit signal interact of the result. I took this from a tutorial. I might have to rewatch that tutorial or series of tutorials, but basically, if I'm looking at an interactable object, and the interactable object has a label, it shows that label, and that's if the ray is intersecting with it, right? This is not interactable at this moment because it doesn't have an interaction, but if I then click, aka hit the interact button, it does whatever it needs to do, and that's all built like the player controller just sends the I know what you are button. I have interacted with you. Do what you need to do with that information. The same is true for the door, I believe. Right? It just says door. I click on it. The door does what it needs to do once it's interacted with. That makes sense. And by looking at a something that gives me a result, I can get all of its information. If interact customer and it has user and then yeah, when I do interact, and there is an interact cast result, and that cast result has an interacted signal, I do this signal. But what if that's fixtures? So this is for fixtures. This is for fixtures. If the item is pick-upable, then what? Then pick up item. Then we do whatever we do with up items. So that'll probably be destroy get item information. IDs, whatever. Destroy item in world. And instantiate play here too. You should like play the play generic or appropriate. Ooh, no. You know what I'm gonna need to do? I'm going to need to also make separate components for fixtures and items. That's the definitions I gave myself. Yeah. The generic appropriate hand animation. So that's like, you know, just kind of your hand doing this or something, just to give visual feedback. And a grab animation. And instantiate item in hand. And probably disable interaction because the hand is full. Like, using an item is pretty simple, I think. It's a pretty binary thing, for the most part. Using inventory is also pretty simple. Play an animation and teleport again. That might be items. Items. Need to define what items are. Items. You have world item. We don't need to alter that. We need to pull it. World item has collision and that's not the right word for collision. Collision and physics. Maybe has properties like used, empty, some local variables, etc. Yeah. And then you have held item. Held item has no collision and physics. Is tied to hand position. May be usable. Can be put in inventory if can be put in inventory. And then you have inventory. Inventoried? Inventory item. Retains item ID and potential variables. Like classic for these kinds of car games. If you have a jerry can, how much fuel does it have? That needs to be persistent, right? So some of these values need to be persistent. So the item needs to have a unique ID and variables. Held item, inventory item. Can be maybe usable, can be put in inventory, can be dropped or placed back into world. Can be put in inventory. No. Inventory item has no collision in physics. Is located under arm. Has inventory index. collision and physics. That's really all there is to it. Item. Generic. That shouldn't be bolded. Item has unique ID and potential local variables. Used, empty, etc. ID and variables are retained through all forms of item. World item has collision and physics. Makes sense, right? World item has collision and physics. What else does it have? It has the IDs and variables, but that's retained through all forms of item. So, water bottle that exists in the world. Water bottle number 078 or something. Water bottle that exists in the world. It has a location. It's just sitting there on a shelf. You pick it up, it gets destroyed in the world, or it gets turned into the held item. It does not get destroyed. It gets transformed. Because there is an overarching can be destroyed. Can be destroyed entirely. Picking it up doesn't destroy it. You throw it in the trash or something, or the game deciding to clean up certain loose objects, garbage collecting or something like that. I mean that in a programming sense. Clearing up memory. That's the only thing that destroys an item. Item has a unique ID and potential local variables. So full bottle exists in the world, right? Has physics, so it can be affected by the world, whatever. You pick it up, it's now held. The physics version of it disappears. The held item of it now exists in your hand. It no longer has collision and physics. Its position is tied to your hand. It may be usable. Variables are retained through all forms of items. Usability and item is unique. Can be destroyed entirely. It may be usable, so you can drink the bottle, and that changes its properties somehow, right? Or if it's a flashlight, you can turn the flashlight on, and now the flashlight is on. Can be put in inventory. So you hit the inventory button, it gets put into your inventory. And that's first in, last out. But if you hit the inventory button again, and that's the only thing in your inventory, you take it out. And it can be dropped or placed. And yeah, when it's put into your inventory, it has no collision of physics. It is now located here, and it has an index. It has a temporary index in the inventory that only the inventoried item version of it has. Because that's the only place where it's necessary, and that's only needed for taking things out of the inventory and putting them in. So the inventory can have 3 slots. Right, so if it has index 0 and the inventory size is 1, then the game knows that when you hit the inventory button again, it'll grab that. And again, an animation will play, like an animation like this. This will disappear, it'll appear in your hand. I think appearing in your hand is the way to go. I don't think I need an animation. It'll happen quick, it'll happen in proximity, so the kind of it'll look fine. There's a lot of these game-like things that enhance realism and stuff. Okay, so that makes sense to me. Here's a question. Dropping and placing. This is something I'm working out now. Dropping and placing. Do I need a separate drop mechanic? Or is dropping just a way of placing? Right now, the way I have it here is I have separate controls for drop item and place item. So like imagine dropping item is the same button you use to pick up the item. So imagine it just being clicking on it. Clicking on the bottle, it's now in your hand. Clicking again, drops it. That makes sense? Is that logical? And then pressing another key, I don't know, F or E, puts it in place mode. Why does place mode need to exist? Place mode needs to exist because the item is held in your hands and not just floating in front of you right in the middle of the screen as it is for a lot of these games. Usually that's the thing, right? Usually in a lot of these games it's floating in front of you. It may still be a physics object. Even if it isn't, you can move it around. You can maybe turn it. And then you can kind of place it somewhere and then hit the drop key. And then it drops it. But since I want items to be in your hand, I'm not going to have, just for the record, it would be funny. I'm not going to have Jurassic Park trespassers like weird physics arms. I'm not going to do that. I find that hilarious. I think there may be games that work really well with that. Now, really well is maybe not the right answer, but like, I think The Long Drive does that. The arm is just a, a visual thing, and it looks ridiculous and it can be very funny. I'm not after that kind of humor and funny. So there will need to be a place mode. My question is, do I need to have a separate drop, or is drop just placing the item again? You know, if you're holding it in your hand and drop is just immediately letting go of it. I feel like there is a purpose to that, right? Place mode is a little bit more involved. It's a little bit more, I have to very purposefully figure out where I'm gonna put this. Whereas drop mode is like, I need my hand to be free. Right now, at this very moment, I need my hand to be free. So I'm just gonna let go of this thing, and it's gonna fall wherever it falls, and that's it. But my thing is, now that I'm trying to figure out how this works, right? If dropping an item involves merely destroying the held item version and recreating a world item in its place that now simply just falls out of the hand. That is essentially what happens at the end of place mode, right? Place mode, the item remains in your hand, but a holographic duplicate appears in front of you that you can manipulate. And then once you let go of that, the item teleports to that location and enters drop mode. But what if you just kind of hit... I talked about this last time. Are there places where I can use press a button versus hold a button? You press a button and it drops right out of your hand. You hold a button and you go into place mode. I like that. I like that. Press. Hold. Right. Act place, drop or place item. Drop, smash, place. Dropping and placing. Placing an item. Sorry, I need to rewrite this. Pressing the drop key destroys the held item and recreates it as a world item in a same location, which is then subject to physics. Holding the drop key creates a holographic duplicate in the middle of the screen with no physics, but maybe collision. That is manipulable. Once ready to place, do the exact same as drop, except item, world item. So it's ready to place, destroy held item, destroy holographic duplicate, and recreate it as world item in the middle of the screen, which is then subject middle of the screen, rotated, sorry, holographic duplicate with the same transform, which is destroy held item, destroy holographic duplicate, and recreate it as a world item with the exact same transform, which is then subject to physics. I know how to write physics. Inventoried item there, and then there's holographic duplicate, only appears during place mode. Tasteful, non-distracting, but obviously a hologram. Not a hologram. Not obviously a hologram. Obviously a duplicate. A temporary duplicate. No physics. Might have collision for placement. Only a visual. Why do this? All right. I think I'm gonna wrap it up there. We made some decent progress today. We actually cut some chunks out of the to-do list, even if it was almost entirely cutting chunks out of the to-do list only to bring those chunks back. They were brought back with a little bit of better understanding of how they work, and with a satisfying thunk of them actually working the way I want them to. Next time, which should probably be Tuesday, we need to do some cleanup with regards to the interaction components. Probably a good idea to go over everything, remove, refresh with the stay at home dev tutorials. Make separate components for fixtures and items. Sitting basic can go down. Use item on fixture. Yeah. Interaction components are stuck on hand interaction. Components for fixtures and items. Pick up item, drop item, use item. Make several example items, one of which is usable, have physics properties, etc. Place item mode. Need to work out what place item mode is. We've kind of done that. How to do rotate, etc. Use item on fixture. And then sitting. Then basic underarm inventory, generic pocket item, which is a relatively easy thing to do, I think. Because it's just bringing up a thing when I hit a button and then putting it away. It's just more about figuring out when it should be allowed to be put in. Yeah, I think we can get that done in August. I feel pretty confident. Confident, the right word? I feel kind of inspired by all of this. That is where we will wrap it up for the day. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, sweet little alien Bob. Yeah, I don't know. If you haven't checked out the YouTube yet, you should check out the YouTube. Does it work? Is it working? Not working. It's working. It worked! My latest video was quite popular. You know how it is with popular things. Popular things means you're good. We're gonna end it there? We're just gonna end it there. Thanks everybody. Today's the day. If it's very hot where you are today, fluids, stay cool, avoid the sun. It might melt you. Bye-bye.